connect, serve, and grow is what you can expect at the House of Reconciliation. Leadership, community, education, wellness, and participation is part of our plan for your spiritual growth and success. Family and faith is a core value for the House of Reconciliation, working to help people find their purpose. Want to make an impact in the kingdom? Ready to tap into your future? Meet us at the House Sundays with Pastor Reginald Campbell, www.houseofreconciliation.org.
We're good? Yes, sir. All right. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We're here at the Greenville campus, 1427 Suite E. Thank God for the Mother Church, the Greenwood campus, and to all of the virtual campus and to the upstate that has been following and watching. We do thank you, and to all of our global and international connections. We thank you. We're not going to waste your time. This evening, we know that the children have to go in and get ready for school, but we do invite you to come and be a part of our in-service on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. And I believe this coming Sunday, we will have financial youth classes that'll begin around 8:30 a.m. So bring your child, and we will work on that and teach them. Now, we're in the month of August, and our core scripture is this Proverbs 21:5 in the English Standard Version. It reads, "And the plans of the diligent lead surely to an abundance." And I want you to hyphen and underline this. If you have a plan and your plan aligns with the will of God, don't be bothered by the noise. The second part of that, part B, said, "But everyone who is hasty," these are the knee-jerk reaction people. These are the people who brag about their jobs and they get their little paychecks. There's nothing wrong with that. My challenge to you is, if your paycheck ends and you're paycheck to paycheck, what will carry you? Because I believe in two things that every individual must have: an innate inheritance and a spiritual birthright. God has gifted you a gift. And many times the time of occupying is what I call empty fulfillment, when you should be building your war chest. So it says, "But everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty," which means you did immediate gratification things. I hung out, I went, I did this, I did that. Oh, I like the thrill, I like the excitement, when you should have been building up your war chest. So now we are talking about this month, without risk, there are no rewards. So tonight I wanted to introduce you to this part of it. The reason I'm teaching this way is that you have to take a risk on you to create a better you. Now, what does that mean? The Bible says you can't take old wine and put in new wineskins. If the month of August is a new day, new beginning, then we should be developing a new you. We should be literally sitting down, writing a plan about new direction. Well, you can't write a new direction if you don't understand you're not on a path that's going to lead you to an abundance in your life. And many people don't have direction in their life. So this is why new direction, new point of view. Because oftentimes the group that we're most comfortable with only has one point of view. And that is me, myself, and I. I am happy where I am. I love what I'm doing. I'm not worried about tomorrow. I'm just going to party like it's 1999. Okay? And tomorrow, the mortgage is due, the rent is due, the car doesn't have gas, the kids need things, the light bill is high because the temperature is high. So I don't understand the benefit of the 1999 party. So when I look at a new point of view, once you get new directions, we have to accumulate a new approach. Then it requires us to have next level thinking. With next level thinking, it births something within you, new attitude, new behavior. So I can't act. So now here's the tough thing. I've got to change me because me keeps getting my future in trouble. I'll say this again. I have to change me because me keeps getting my future in trouble. So then, if I don't get new behaviors, old behaviors will cancel out anything and any plan. So it doesn't give me purpose to go to school because I'm going to have the same attitude whether I'm in school or out of school. I'm going to have the same behavior. I stay up all night, I sleep all day, and I don't like the teacher. And this is what happened back in the early 60s and 70s and 80s. Many people quit school and went into manufacturing and worked there their whole life with an 8th or 3rd grade education and now have no recourse. And what I was surprised about is that they had a GED program in the system at the plant, but nobody went to class. What does that mean? I don't need anything new because I think I got it figured out. That's a danger. So then new behaviors create new focus. Are you focused? You said you was going to get focused last month. You said you was going to get focused at Easter. You came and cried about them hanging Jesus on the cross. But there's no new focus. Without new focus, there can be no new direction. Without new direction, there can be no new disciplines. Disciplines. That's what people don't like. Discipline. Disciplines create foundations. Disciplines create corners. Discipline has structure and infrastructure to it, not feelings and emotions. Now, quote, Frederica Lalonde said, "You don't need to be 100 years ahead of your time." Because, you get them people try to outthink everybody. They got to make A's. You get them people, y'all know them. Some of them in here. You get them people, I got to have an A, got to have an A, got to have an A. Just long as you pass. I ain't mad at the people who graduate with honors. Thank God for y'all. But some of us are just thankful we in the line. You see what I'm saying? See, because you can put undue pressure on you. So here's what he says. You don't need to be 100 years ahead of your time to create an advantage. That's what other ethnicities have done, is they've created an advantage. And if you tie it to them, at some point you're going to come to the drop-off point where they phase out this department, they phase out this, they outsource this, and the whole time you just been giddy, but not getting your future in your hand. I shared with a group earlier that did an interview. I said, God said he will bless your hands. What gifts did God put in your lineage? What gifts? And most of the time, what your gift is, you're not going to like it. Because gift doesn't bring excitement. Gift doesn't bring fans. Gift brings substance and results and sustainability. That's what gifts bring. Gifts doesn't, everybody's not going to applaud you. We in love with the person on the stage, and that's the weakest one in the building. Because had not everybody else did what they have done, if I didn't have the people behind the scenes, I wouldn't be seen now. So culture and eye candy tells you, I want to be just like him. No, you don't. I'm the least of the group. I'm just a dissemination of information. I got up today and I said, okay, God. And I looked through my stuff and there's a whole bunch of notes and words. And I said, now, Jesus, unless you got jokes, this is Wednesday. I have a lot of things written down. But if you don't assign something to me, we just going to have a quick review. So now, let's get down to business. He says, you just need to be ahead enough to understand where the next generation is going. Here is what I want to share with you this evening. Remember, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. Here's what I want to leave with you today. Be careful how people paint your narrative. Because you are vulnerable when you begin to build a better you. You're vulnerable, very vulnerable. It's just like a caterpillar. When a caterpillar is going through the metamorphosis and the transition to become a butterfly, it is not complete transformation until you complete the transition. And when you're going through, you're uncertain in yourself, you're uncertain in your spirit because you're uncomfortable with what you're becoming. And this is when people, when you say, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to do this, here's what happens. We have to be cautious of the narrative that we set for ourselves. You can put a narrative in your life that you can't accomplish because it's not really your narrative, it's someone else's. So you will take your own self down by how your own mind operates. You will lose your opportunities because you are measuring your opportunities with someone else, and you don't realize that they're at stage 4 of the transition and you're at stage 1, or you just getting prepared for it. So you quit, or you become offended, or you become negative. When if you go back and look at history, you would take a cheeseburger at the back door. And now you got a problem with somebody putting their hand on your cheeseburger when you don't know what they did to your cheeseburger back in the 60s. You got to be careful about the narrative and completely be aware of the narrative that others try to set about you. Be aware of the false representation that can precede you. Most of the time, if you talk to people and say, well, you know, hey, I know Benny, they're not going to say something positive about Benny. They're going to say something negative about Benny. And so what we don't understand is that half of our fight is with stuff that's perception that leads to deception and not reality. Be aware how a false reputation can precede you. Because here is what people don't factor in anything that they're doing, is that we do have an adversary. And there are 4 different kinds of adversary. There's a natural adversary in humanity that competes with each other. Somebody will say, hey, I caught 3 fish. Well, I caught 12. My fish was this long. Check your bucket, your fish was this long. Because there's a natural competitive in us that will automatically cause us to say things that are not true. And so we can hinder ourselves and create our own stumbling blocks and don't even realize people are competing with you when you're not even competing. And you should never compete with yourself, and you should never compete with others, because you don't know, they could be at step 25 and you could be at step 3 and you've killed yourself because of the false perception. Does this make sense? This must be hitting hard because it's mighty quiet in this sanctified church. Natural competitors. So, well, she's going to go to the prom with him. And then the first thing we say, won't nobody go with me? You hadn't asked everybody. And most of the time you ask the people that don't have any value and see your value. Because your value is in eye candy and not in substance. Your value is in the immediate gratification and not in the delayed gratification. And so then now, number 2, you have a spiritual adversary. And it's twofold. You have the enemy, and then you have the enemy of your mind. So you have a spiritual adversary. Number 3, self. I inflict pain with my own mind because my own mind will work against my holistic being, which means the total me, body, mind, and spirit. So I have an issue with myself. And so when God tries to deposit something new in me, I'm still having a problem with what's old in me. So it's very difficult for God to deposit something new. And when he deposits it, let me give you a revelation. When he deposits it into you, just like your natural innate inheritance, he gives it to you because he has equipped you to develop it. The church tells you he's going to develop it. And so when God equips you, and he comes in the middle of your spiritual adversary, Satan, which is a roaring lion, Peter, I will sift you as wheat, then you've got your own broken spirit because you don't know who you are. And one of the major, most common diseases in humanity is low self-esteem. And that's not of God. He looked at you and made every one of us and said that you're wonderfully made. Everything and every person is a part of the garden of God. But yet your own mind tells you, I don't like what I see in the mirror. And all you have to do is see somebody else that weigh a half an ounce less than you, and you will lose your mind trying to get their hair, get their complexion, and do things that's not you. I'm going to show you something here. Number 4, you have an adversary of development. Every now and then, God sends someone or something in your life to kick you in the rump, to say you need to be going straight. But you veered off left, you veered off right, you went downstairs, you never looked ahead, and you never looked upstairs. And so now you're getting kicked in the rump, and you feel like God doesn't love you, don't nobody love me. And sometimes God has to send an adversary to help make you focus. What does this mean? You have to get fired to go back to school. You have to get laid off or get demoted to all of a sudden to realize you need more pay. And the biggest challenge with people today is they outlive their means and overextend themselves. In the laws of finances, it says that you need to live $5 to $7 an hour beneath what you make an hourly. Not your gross, but your net. So if you had to go through a transition on a job, you could take a lower paying job because you've already budgeted yourself for lower paying. But if you're living 25 and 35 and 55 and 75% over your gross, now when the company tells you we're phasing out this department, you have not saved anything, you have not planned anything, and you can go get your 401k, but they're going to tax you at 39.5%. Then you're going to have to pay capital gains. Am I right, sir?
Yes, sir.
So now you sit here thinking like, well, God don't love me. He gave you 40 years. What did you do with him? You sat on the side of the corner and chewed chewing gum. You went to the cookout. And God gave you a gift that if you were to use the gift and build the gift and develop the gift, God gave you a gift free of charge. You haven't identified the gift. You haven't developed the gift. And you haven't built the gift. And neither have you created sustainability for the gift. Because God didn't design you to compete with other people. Here's number 5. Now I'm almost there. Many will fall into the trap where a false reputation will make you believe the very thing you're not. I'll say it again, number 5. Many will fall into the trap where a false reputation will make you believe the very thing that's not you. Number 6, many people, especially today with the social media technology, will write and say and tell a wrong narrative about you that adds to your fight for your destiny. Now here's what I say. Can you see your purpose and your destiny beyond you? In other words, I don't bake pies because I like baking pies. Somebody fill it in. I bake pies because I'm creating a demand for my pies. And the demand from my pies are going to create, but see, we're too tender. Because as soon as somebody say, oh, my mama make a better pie than you, we quit making pies. You ain't my customer. And I don't mean to go this way, but I have to go this way because it came to me. See, we're spending our money, we're spending our paycheck. And I was talking to some friends, and I love you guys in New York, and they have art and inherited artifacts that they put in museums, and they get a check every month. And they said, Reggie, you know what we do? When we get our check, we have a company party, and we write it off. And I'm thinking, how many people out there spending their paycheck and they're spending passive income because they have art, jewelry, heirlooms in the family that's on display? Because see, the simple-minded worry about who likes them. The person who understands the gift find their audience. They find their demographics. Because see, everybody can't afford you. You're selling to people who don't have 2 nickels. You need to sell to people who got $500,000. And they, oh my God, it looks just like my granddad. And let me have 2 of them. I ain't finished them yet. And if you can pay me now, I'll get them to you between now and whenever. That's like going to the gas station, paying $20 for gas, and go out there and there ain't no gas. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. Everybody say this with me. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
With you.
With you.
Say it again. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
With you.
With you.
Say it again. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
With you.
With you.
Because here's what happens. Can you take the risk of building a better you? Because then this is when you take up your cross. So that means the crowd that you were with and the people that you blessed and the people that you've helped, when you take up your cross, they're the first ones to crucify you. Because you've changed. And you're sitting there beginning to become and go into the transition of becoming a better you, and you're arguing with a person who won't even start their cocoon. You're trying to validate you when God has already authorized you. And you're seeking your validation from people. Well, if I don't dress like this, and I purposely dress the way I dress, because people think with my level of knowledge and my level of education and my level of worth and wealth that I would dress like that. I dress just like the billionaires because one day I want to be like them. And they don't wear all that stuff. They put their money to work. See, when you take up your cross, your previous, your present supervisor, your leadership, your mentor, they're going to have a problem with you because you're about to go through your chrysalis to free yourself. So you the banana that pulled itself from the bunch because the bunch going to die. You're going to take your seeds and plant them. Am I helping somebody today?
Yes, sir.
Is this making sense? Because you're too much worried about what they going to say and what the team going to say and what the people going to say. You see, it's almost like the ugly girl and the ugly boy at the prom. Didn't nobody want to go with them, but those are the two that are now the highest paid people 15, 20 years later, and all the rest of them still on a corner working low-income jobs. Can I talk to somebody? But nobody wanted to go to prom with Becky because she wore thick glasses. Nobody wanted to go with Tommy because his shoes were thick. He wasn't cool, was he? But now Tommy live behind the gate and you behind bars. Come on.
Yep. Wrong set of gates.
Wrong set of gates. Yeah, yeah. You wouldn't date a nerd. You wouldn't date a nerd. You took somebody off the corner, and now they gone for 30 years. And the one that was a nerd like you, but he was too goofy for you.
He was just your friend.
He had them thick glasses on. Because I used to have to fight people on the bus because my sister wore thick glasses. You know how they used to be like Coca-Cola bottles? And she wore big, thick glasses. I mean, man, we're talking about my sister. They'd be like, can you see Jesus? I'm serious. I'm going to give you a couple things, and we're going to be done here. First of all, can you build a better you? The first thing you have to do is be willing to shed what was. Part of shedding what was is your comfort zone. And part of shedding is how people shaped your mind. Because sight can be damaging to your intellect and intelligence, and sight can make you think what you see is right and is really wrong. Young males, they think somebody's supposed to take care of them. You were created to be a leader. You weren't created to sit and watch somebody pump gas. You were created to build something. You weren't created to move in with somebody who living off the government. You weren't created for that. You weren't created for a handout. But that's what you've seen. That's what your culture's seen. So then you think that's nature. And you think that's reality. That's not reality. That's struggle and survival. I've heard guys, I'm glad she got this. I'm glad she. Well, what do you bring to the table? Oh, I forgot kibbles and bits. You can do the math. That's what you bring to the table. Kibbles and bits. Yeah. Number one, shedding what you was. How people have shaped your mind. And I have a story to tell you. It's a real short one. How people have shaped your mind. This is why I won't let my grandchildren come to me, and sometimes Papa need help. But I refuse to not have something to give them. Because I want them to know I want to develop in them, not spoiling them, because I don't spoil them. Because am I rough, baby? Okay, look at she done buzz, she done turned 15. She talking about you can be. With her 3-foot braids. Now she say I get on her nerves. See, here's the whole thing about talking about family. They can't kick you out the family. They may not like you, but at the end of the day, that's family. And number one, shedding what you was. What you're in, 99% of what you're in is not who you are. And every now and then you creep out. Little sweet, kind, lovable person. But because of your environment, you ain't no pit bull. You ain't even clean your teeth. You got all that gingivitis. You out there bogging, spitting them people, rolling your eyes. You just full of gingivitis. You ain't been to the dentist in 5 years. You wonder why people look down when you talk. You just killed them with that moo breath. Shedding what was. Number two, understanding what is. What does that mean? Anybody want to chime in real quick? You understand the do's and don'ts now. I paid for my friend's dinner, and now they mad at me over what somebody said. I paid for people, and now I got to figure out how to pay my light bill. Number three, preparing and setting the path for what's to come. What does that mean? When you begin transition, and we all should be headed there, you learn how to evolve. Preparing and setting the path for what's to come. So you're not competing with the left or to the right or to the middle or to what's at the bottom or what's on top. You know it's going to take 60 steps for me to get to this point. You may have the discipline for the first 5, but do you have the discipline for the next 55? Because each step is going to change your atmosphere and your culture. And each step is going to reshape your mind. See, this is why I have an issue with being intelligent and articulate and using your intellect when you're around certain people. I believe you should use that with everybody. I don't care how uneducated, how backwards he or she may be, because when you drop who you are to reduce yourself to be what's not what you're not, how do you bring them up? If you meet them at your level, at their level, how do you bring them up? That's a little lady talking to me. 8 hours and 37 seconds. 124, so I'm not in stroke level yet. But do you see what I'm saying? See, you step down to break, and the only time it comes back is when you get mad. Now, all of a sudden, you sound like a college professor. Why don't you stay that way? Why don't you handle your whole life with your intellect and intelligence rather than getting, and I'm going to say this, rather than getting ghetto with somebody? You don't know where I'm from. Well, why I'm going to say that, why the hell should I worry about where you from when you didn't stay where you was? So you're going to come all the way up here, get this high level of education. You're going to get this level of job. Then you're going to act and fight like Quita and Big Lip Betty and Buckwheat and Semi all in a place where they can't be where you are and you finna lose your place. Don't make me go back to where I come from. Well, your butt should have stayed there. Because when you get up here, it's a different game. And the problem is y'all cut y'all buttons off too often and too often. You cut them off, then you forget you left them off. Now you go somewhere and do something stupid. Now you want to cut them back on. Why don't you just leave them on? What's today, Wednesday? People upset me so bad Monday. I knew my blood pressure went up. I needed some good whiskey. I know somebody gonna run and tell my mom, "Oh, Pastor Campbell, I heard they'll say that he drank whiskey." Get a life. But here's the thing, and I said to myself, you have greater responsibility coming. You cannot be having a stroke over people who can't understand. Am I making sense? And you keep dialing back to tell somebody off in the language that only they can understand. If they can understand where you are, then that's not your group to talk to. That didn't go over so well, but it's the truth. How to evolve. Here's number 4. We have to learn how to live being uncomfortable. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Number 5. If your dreams are no bigger than you, then it's not a dream. It's an ego trip. Your dream should be so big that it carries your children and their children. It shouldn't be, well, I don't have any kids or this, that, and the other. You've got a nephew or you got a niece that may be not at the top of the food chain. They're not a 10, they may be a 7. You can lead something for them. You can help their children. You can do something for people. So we have to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And if your dreams are no bigger than you, then it's not a dream, it's an ego trip. Now, let me give you this story, and I'm gone. Magic Johnson. Y'all see the article? Magic Johnson said he grew up broke. So you take the money. Somebody say immediate gratification. He said, I regret not taking the Nike offer. The stock in Nike. They offered him stock in Nike. And today, that stock would have been $5.2 billion as of today. His culture. And when you grow, and he said, I grew up broke. So you are taught by your culture to take the money because your culture don't have any money. His culture wasn't taught to forecast and to think ahead. They tried to do this with Christmas savings. Start saving in January on the jobs. They come around. Do you want to save? It be in the Christmas club. Any of y'all old enough to remember the Christmas club? And you would put a $5 a week or whatever out your check in the Christmas club. And so Magic, because he grew up poor. So you got to be careful about your culture. You got to be careful about what culture you bring your children up in. You got to be careful how you talk around your children, because then they'll think that's the way it's supposed to be. And Magic today, and he's wealthy and he's blessed, but I don't think he's $5.2 billion deep. Because if he was, he could have bought the Commanders by himself. Because it sold for $6.50 billion. You see, this is why I say I try to teach us how the Word of God applies to your life today. And we thank Magic Johnson, and we thank him for his honesty to say, I grew up broke. So I had a survival mentality. I didn't think future. I didn't think investments. And that's what happens. And I say this in a financial piece. People spend 50 years in the workforce and wind up surviving month to month. What did you do? What did you plant alone in those 50 years that will come back to you years down the road? And so that's the true gist of what Magic was saying. I took the money, but I should have took a plan that grew money. And had I taken a plan that grew money, the stock in Nike right now, his share will be $5.2 billion. Yes. Well, and this is what I always say, and I say this to us, and I say it from the depths of my heart. If the culture was so great, why did you leave it? And what has the culture produced? If the culture was so great, because what you don't know is you should set a standard for the culture. But because you have wealth, you think that's not your culture. You should be the smart one from your culture to go teach the other ones. You can't be $5.2 billion and looking like Ray Ray hanging out on the corner. And let me tell you, and this is from the great Bishop Jakes and Bishop Noel Jones, and people say, well, I don't want to change. Then you will never have anything. And you will never be an example. Because people will waddle in your trash, but they can't follow your trash. But if you pave a highway, people can pick up the manual and follow you. So I don't try to represent my culture. I try to show my culture that there is a way out. I'm not better than my culture. I'm not above my culture. I'm not beneath my culture. But I'm one of the ones that stepped out of line and said, hey, there's a different way. Does this make sense? Did I help you this evening? So instead of you're broke, because that's what other ethnicities want you to do. It's to struggle and survive. If you always struggle and survive, you'll never see planting. You'll never see investing. You'll never see partnering. Does that make sense? Because it's all about you. And there's only so many clothes. And I said this to somebody and they got upset with me. They was like, well, certain ethnicities, they didn't have none. I said, oh no, they rich. Their closet gets rich. Their savings account is in the closet. And this is what they drive. And everything in the closet and everything that's driving is depreciable assets. Am I right or wrong? Don't get a house, build houses, buy land, partner with somebody, develop something. Don't try to control it. Reach out to somebody who has the same vision you do and partner with people that are like-minded. Not the go-go gang. Good God. Ain't no worse than old people trying to look like they hip. Am I? There's a movie out with 3 old ladies. They had some kind of New England thing, and they were trying to. A friend was getting married, and they went somewhere, and they just old biddies sitting up in the club. Yeah, I seen the previews. Ain't no worse than old people trying to be with young people. Young people can stay up. You over there tomorrow? What I miss? They done stole your purse and dropped something in your drink. And while you out there dancing, you so simple-minded, you done left your keys. Now they done went out there and boop boop till they found the car that was yours and they gone. Listen, it's one thing to have money. That's why this book is important. That teach you how to make your money work for you. Because then when you don't have the mobility to work, you've got something working for you. And so I used to just think I had 2 grandchildren. I was like, yeah, I'm going to set this up. And the Lord said, but you may have adopted grandchildren. You may have other grandchildren. You may have grandchildren when your daughters get married, and they may marry somebody with children. So I said, I'm going to need more money. I said, man, at some point, I can't buy no shoes. Because I have to leave something for them. I'm compelled to leave something to my children and to their children, because one of them gonna take all of Papa's dysfunction and they're gonna put it together and really succeed in life. And I'm gonna say this to you as I close. If you don't give it to them, then who? Because right now, you don't believe it, but they're coming after it. They've already come after affirmative action. They're already coming off a legacy of alumni's children going to school. They're coming after scholarships. This is why they don't want to approve the debt forgiveness that the current president wants. Because they're like, if I paid $160,000 for Moo education, how do you go to school? And they say this to me. How do you go to school for free? Because they'll tell you this. They've told me, well, you shouldn't have had them if you couldn't afford them. I said, what? So with all the singing and shouting and dancing and flipping that we do, I'm one of the ones that want to set you down and say, listen, my brother, listen, my sister. I got to get you prepared. God bless you. I'll see you soon. Like, share, and post. Tell somebody it's a little rough, but it was needy. God bless you. Any questions?